To create fear, you have to use excessive imagination. To not be in fear, you don't have to do anything. Fear is happening because of excessive imagination, things that have not happened, you're creating. What may happen in your mind happens in 1,000 different formats, and most probably it never happens. The things that you feared, take 100 things that you have feared, probably 99 of them never happened, isn't it? Yes. So your fear is always about that which does not exist. You cannot fight or you cannot overcome that which does not exist. We can overcome something that exists. You cannot overcome that which does not exist. You just have to give up that effort. Enjoy the fear. After all, it's your making. You like horror movies. Yes, I mean, you're saying no, but you're producing them. It's just they're not making money, that's all. Fear means you're producing horror movies in your mind. Nobody else is willing to watch. That's bad for the producer. But you're producing them. So, you produce something else. Produce a comedy, a love story, suspense, thriller. Try and see, today, just sit down, produce a love story, a suspense thriller, a comedy, 5 minutes movies you make in your mind, really. Start using your mind differently. It's just gotten into your pattern. Just gotten into your pattern of just creating horror movies all the time. You have watched enough horror movies, they're boring. Create something else. Even it's not that if you produce these movies, those things will happen in your life. Still they may not happen, at least you enjoy the movie. In reality it may not happen, so what? At least you enjoy what's happening in your mind, if you cannot enjoy what's happening in the world, isn't it? That much privilege every human being deserves, isn't it so? Even if the world is not kind to him, at least his own mind should be kind to him, should produce some nice movies.
When are you at your best?
I'm at my best when I'm around people who believe what I believe. I know it seems silly, but I try very, very hard to sort of stack the deck, to put myself in a position of strength. So for example, somebody asked me just yesterday, have you ever had sort of a bad, engagement? And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, not really. But it's not because I'm some sort of genius or anything like that. It's because I stack the deck. It's because I want to be there. I want to be around people who want me there. In other words, if I'm somebody's 10th choice, I'll probably turn it down. Whereas if I'm their first choice, they really want me there, and so I'm more likely to have a good engagement. They're supportive of me, I'm supportive of them, and so yeah, I'm at my best when I stack the deck, when I choose to be in an environment where my strengths are.
I've been feeling a little bit unmotivated, and I've been feeling like I should be doing something, or I should be I feel like I should be pulled in different, I'm feeling uninspired basically. That's my question. How do you get, when you lose inspiration or you lose motivation, how do you get it back?
I get it back by remembering that you might die tomorrow.
That's true.
So I'm inspired by practicality and reality and the truth, which is, it is ridiculously impossible to become a human being. I am one. I have other good things going for me as a human being, and I'm just grateful. You're dwelling and looking at what you don't have versus looking at what you have. If you actually looked at what you had, your health, living in America, who the heck knows what would be on your list? If you actually spent all your time looking at that versus, I don't have $1 million, I'm not famous, I don't have this. If you spent all your time on what you have versus what you don't have, you would be the happiest girl on earth.
I started to have these panic attacks. And I didn't know what was wrong. And I went to see one of the health people at campus, and they referred me to somebody, and the doctor said, oh, well, you just have anxiety and you're having panic. And then he said, I think you should go on Zoloft. And then I had anxiety about taking a drug because, it might change me. Yeah. Heaven forbid.
Right.
I'm so stable. Why would I want to be changed? And that's the funny thing is that those of us that struggle with these kinds of things, we're terrified of taking any kind of medication because we're afraid of not being ourselves. And yet the anxiety or the depression or whatever you struggle with is actually keeping you from being yourself.
That's the anxiety, or that's the anchor.
Yeah, and so I argued with him like a lawyer for 6 months, and then finally I gave in and started taking Zoloft, and it was like a miracle. When I took it, it was literally as if somebody had taken a volume dial and turned it to 0, and that voice that would sound off in my head on a loop that triggered all the body sensations. We're going to talk a lot about this tomorrow, like the difference between worry and how that triggers anxiety, and then the difference between anxiety and panic, and then how you can utilize the tools that I'm talking about to curb the worrying, to control the anxiety, to stabilize the panic, and really self-monitor. And see, I think that is the single greatest skill that anybody could have, the ability to self-monitor. You could call it mindset, you could call it self-awareness, but truly to be so in tune with yourself that in a nanosecond, you pick up when things are going south with your thoughts, that you understand how to monitor yourself, your behavior, what you're thinking, so that you align with your values and your choices. And for the first 40 years of my life, I didn't know how to do it.
You're convinced that you're going to fail or fall or get hurt, that will come to fruition because that's what you're visualizing. I never I was willing to get hurt along the way, but I didn't visualize myself getting hurt along the way. And I think that's what stops a lot of people, and that's really what separates a lot of people from being world champions or from being as good as they can, because they stop at some point saying, oh no, I am not capable of this, or I'll probably get hurt doing this. And if you approach anything with that hesitation, you're going to fail. I always approached it like, this is going to work. I'm going to figure this out, even if it takes me hundreds of attempts. And I wasn't, the idea of falling and getting back up again, that didn't really bother me at all.
You cannot invent and pioneer if you cannot accept failure. To invent, you need to experiment. And if you know in advance that it's going to work, it is not an experiment. And so that's a very important thing. They are inseparable twins, failure and invention. And so you have to be willing to do that. And it's embarrassing to fail. It's always embarrassing to fail. But you have to say, no, that's not how this works. If I said to you, you have a 10% chance with a particular decision, a 10% chance of a 100x return, you should take that bet every time, but you're still going to be wrong 9 out of 10 times, and it's going to feel bad 9 out of 10 times. And with technology, the outcomes, the results can be very long-tailed. The payoff can be very asymmetric, which is why you should do so much experimentation. Everybody knows that if you swing for the fences, you hit more home runs, but you also strike out more. But with the baseball, that analogy doesn't go far enough, because with baseball, no matter how well you connect with the ball, you can only get 4 runs. The success is capped at 4 runs. But in business, every once in a while, you step up to the plate and you hit the ball so hard, you get 1,000 runs. And so when you have that kind of asymmetric payoff, and one at bat can get you 1,000 runs, it encourages you to experiment more. It's the right business decision to experiment more. It's also better for your customers. Customers like the successful experiments.
To me, this is the road to true freedom. I have nothing to prove. I have nothing to protect. I have nothing to hide. And I have nothing to defend. That your perception of me, after I tell my truth, is actually none of my business. My perception of me, that I go to bed as whole and complete as I woke up, before I check how many likes I have on Facebook, that I like me first. And every other like is bonus.
There you go.
Like it. That was a long road to get to. Long road.
Sure.
Long road.